Welcome, guys. I'm Vinny Carries, and I'm here with my partner, Matthias Grunewald. Say hi, Matthias.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So today we're going to do something a little different, right? Instead of talking about the wins, we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit, and we're going to talk about deals that we walked away from, right? So a lot of people think success in real estate is about finding good deals. Truth is, long-term success is about avoiding bad ones, right? So today we're going to share about, how we underwrite, any red flags that stopped us from pursuing a deal, and how saying no protects our investors' capital. Saying no is very important. So Matthias, ready to get honest about some of the ugly ones, if you will?
Absolutely. I could talk about this for days. Let's do it.
So let's talk about big picture, right? So we look at a lot of deals, right? And obviously we don't say yes to everything. That's just not how it works. But roughly how many deals do we look at for every one deal that we actually close?
So yeah, we have a very specific process. So whatever crosses our desk, we do like an initial sniff test. And there's a couple things that we look at before it actually makes in our acquisition pipeline. What I can see in 2025 last year, there were 113 deals where we said, okay, this passes a sniff test and now let's take a deeper look. There's probably double of that. We actually like total volume of deals that came across our desk, but we say no to a lot of things like brokers sending us stuff. It might be like in a very small town in West Virginia. First of all, small towns are tough. In West Virginia, we have nothing in close to West Virginia, and it just makes no sense to take that down for us. So we say no to a lot of things. Or it's maybe not even the right asset class because it's just RV only. We like to do mobile home parks with some RVs, but not all RVs. So that makes a big difference. But what we actually have in the pipeline, we said, okay, let's take a deeper look, was about 113 deals last year.
And how many did we close?
Oh, that's like 3.5%. It was like 4 of them. Yeah, exactly.
So very comfortable with saying no, right? And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. What's the number one reason we say no to a deal if you had to pick one?
The main one is really infrastructure. If we see, okay, sometimes you get limited information when you get the deal pitched to you and, the broker sends something, or even like, somebody comes out of the woodworks like a seller and they say, hey, I have this deal. And then you ask some questions and like they're very secretive about stuff. And then you have to sign NDAs. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, this is on the lagoon, or like a sewage pond, or this has wastewater treatment plant. We don't want to touch those. We know people personally that do great with lagoons. That's like their jam. They chose that as their heart. We didn't. We use septic, fine. Of course, city sewer is the holy grail, is what you want. And we can deal with septic. Very common in the south where we operate in. But anything wastewater treatment, lagoons, we say no to immediately. Anything else that's like super high vacancy, especially in small towns, like a town has like maybe declining population even and is very small and has like 50% occupancy, we stay away from that too. That's just a heavy lift. And that's probably a reason why it's empty so much. So we stay away from that, to protect investors' capital.
Have we ever found a deal that it's in a good market, we like it, and we still had to reject it?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a couple. I mean, a few come to mind, like where you're looking at strong markets, like in Florida even. We haven't even, struck anything in Florida yet, but we make an offers there, and it wasn't a great location. The park had a good size, everything checked the boxes, but it was just overpriced. The seller wanted a 3 cap, and we cannot guarantee the returns to our investors. So unfortunately, hey, the park looks great. It's in the market that we like, but we cannot really, promise the returns like we usually do. So then we had to just back off from it. We still make the offer with the number that works for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's different buyer profiles, and then that buyer profile has to match the seller profile. And sometimes it aligns, many times it doesn't. And that's why from like probably 200 plus deals that come across our desk, we only look at 113, and only 3.5% of those we actually close on. Out of those, we only underwrite about 36% of them because, the first sniff test is good, but the second one is like, okay, look at the infrastructure, look at this and this and this, occupancy and demographics, and then that might actually kick the deal out as well. That we don't even underwrite it, because we do back on napkin underwriting, yes, but when I say underwriting, it's like full-blown analysis on, okay, where is it now, where can we bring it, and that can be very involved. We don't do any like back of a napkin underwriting before we send the LOI, so we do like a full-blown analysis on the deal, but there's several gateways in place before we actually do so, because it's time consuming. We have to protect our time too.
Definitely time consuming, and something that's important is to remove the emotions out of the equation. It's very easy to get attached to something that comes in an email. The pictures are beautiful. You see palm trees and you say, man, I really want to own that mobile home park by the water in Florida, right? But then the numbers don't make sense, or we find non-negotiables, right? So it's very important to be disciplined and to remove the emotions out of the mix. Super important.
100%.
All right, let's get into some real deal stories, right? Let's talk about a deal that maybe looked amazing on paper, but then fell apart during due diligence. And, we've seen some, we traveled to some, right? So let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, we had one in small town, South Carolina, which looked amazing on paper. We actually had several deals under contract in the same region at the same time. So we actually want to bundle this into one syndication, and it looked all great on paper. Only one deal survived out of the three. And for many reasons, the other one got killed. And the other one is one of the best deals actually to this day. It's it's like 40 unit, all 10 owner homes. It's Whispering Pines. That one made it through, and that one's amazing. And there was two other parks in the proximity of Sumter, and it didn't go through, unfortunately. And infrastructure issues, discovered a lot of inconsistencies in the financials. The financials were very badly managed in some of the other parks. And the more we were digging, the more we discovered that the income was like half of what actually was said in the beginning, which to this day hasn't happened again. Like sometimes you find discrepancies, but they're not large. But this was bad. Like from, we make $400,000 a year with this park to, it's actually 220. It's like almost half. And it's definitely a huge red flag. And there were also other issues with the park, and then we just had to back out of it. So we just had to protect our investors' capital, obviously, and also our operations, because it would have been a major lift as well. And then that just puts us operation in harm's way, and also the investors' capital, which we want to avoid. We like to sleep at night, for our own sake and for our investors too. So you don't want to get into those heavy lift deals that are just like, a dumpster fire day one. So yeah, this is one of the main reasons why we killed that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you talk about, some of these seller behaviors, and some of those behaviors you can identify. And if you feel that feeling in your stomach, hey, this doesn't feel right, it makes you feel nervous, then that's a huge red flag, right? Not having confidence in the financials, right? Or they don't really know the park. And it could be a small park, and you can ask the most basic question during the walkthrough. And if they have to talk to somebody else to get the answer, then that's another red flag. So some of these seller behaviors could be a good red flag to pull the thread on. And then you start digging and finding some other things that make you say no to that particular deal.
Yeah, maybe you remember you were there too, Vinny, when we looked at that deal and we talked to the seller, and then believe we talked about evictions and how many evictions they're usually doing. And that lady got like a paper this big, like a stack of papers like this large, all the evictions in the last 2 years. I'm like, oh boy, that's already bad. But maybe it's bad leasing. Maybe it's a bad leasing process. They get the bad people in. I was like, okay. Then I asked more questions, and she said, we don't want to tell people out there that we're selling right now, because if you guys don't pull through, this is $200,000 of income we're losing. I'm like, say that again. 200,000? I thought you guys make 400. And that's how she misspoke. And then, no, okay, that's a problem. And then I realized, I believe the thing was they had utility fees. They said they were on top, but they were actually in the lot rent already. And then the lot rent average was actually lower than they said initially. So they were trying to, cover things up. Maybe intentionally. I don't want to, accuse anybody, but I think it was just not, the financial prudence wasn't there, perhaps. And so when you actually start to look at it with sophisticated eyes, it was just a very wobbly deal financially. So that was way too dangerous. And then also infrastructure. We scoped the lines that went nowhere. Like the guy we had out there was like, I don't know where this goes. It's on a dead end right now. So the lines were like, that thing hinged on infill of new homes as well. So we needed to connect into the sewer lines there. Thankfully it was city sewer, but the city sewer lines were so crushed and collapsed in so many different paths that, every time we put a camera down there, it just got stuck. And that was just a lot of sewer line work we had to do, which we didn't want. And then, all this, what I just said, is like too many red flags to proceed. And okay, we're wasting our time here. Thank you very much. We're moving on to the next. So,
and sometimes we lose money, right? During due diligence, we find things, we're spending some of our own money for travel and paying for these inspections, and that's okay, right? I'm okay with losing that kind of money and not getting into a really bad deal that we stuck with for 5 years. And then, the last thing we want to do is risk investor capital. That is why we do what we do, and we actually travel, we talk, we ask, and we really dig to make sure that we're getting the deal that we see on paper.
100%. I'd rather lose my own money than investors' money. It's that simple. I think that goes for you and that goes for Tim as well. I'd rather lose a couple of $1,000s on our end for due diligence than losing $500,000 on investor money down the road because the deal didn't work out. That's terrible.
So let's talk about, uncovering infrastructure surprises. And you talked about that deal in South Carolina. Any other ones that come to mind? Maybe that Alabama deal with the clay pipes.
That's a big one, yeah. So we had one deal with small town Alabama. It looked good on paper. The financials looked good, actually. It wasn't that bad. But then we discovered in due diligence that all the sewer pipes are clay, and they've been over 50 years old. If you do some research, clay pipes, there are like sections that get kind of joined together. I mean, those sections can easily dislodge and break, and then you can have bad leakage. And we already seen in the financials, they have a lot of sewer repair work already in there, so we know what's already failing. And that's actually why we dug deeper into this. And then, the lifespan is only 50 something years for clay pipes. PVC is over 100, around 100 or more. So half the lifespan, and it's rural Alabama. And we got some quotes to get it all repaired, and it would have been a major job. And usually how it goes, you get that quote, it's probably 25% more expensive because they always find surprises or more than that. So that was too hot while it's been already in a smaller town. And you probably can sense a theme here, like small town is challenging. So we actually don't even look at many small towns anymore unless it's close to a bigger city or like a secondary market at least. But that one was also a little bit too far off of a bigger city. So, and then with that infrastructure issue, that's something we didn't want to get into because you can also become into legal trouble with this, right? If like sewage backs up into people's homes and you need to react quickly and you have to get all this repaired quickly, it's capital intensive, it can become legal issues. And again, we want to sleep good at night. We don't have people have sewage come into their houses and stuff like that. So there's a lot of red flags that we didn't want to get into. So no to clay pipes is not a no
Yes.
for the future.
So something I want to create a separate webinar is to talk about how we stress test deals, right? I think it's really important for investors to know that, and even our listeners who just want to learn about what we do. How do we stress test deals for recessions or rate changes, just high level?
I always bake in a lot of extra vacancy. Let's say we have some infill in the business plan. I'm just going to say, oh, what happens if I don't infill at all? For some reason, like interest rates go up and then financing the home, we don't have a spread anymore between what we can sell it for like long-term, or with long-term selling, I mean like lease with an option, for example, and then cash sales and stuff like that. Bad debts have usually like 10% in year one in there in case we have a lot of, turnover as well. Basically means we're losing 10% of the tenant base or the income right in year one, stress tested there. So I'm going to go a little bit higher, just play with it, just be apocalyptic. Like how bad does it have to be to actually not even get the returns? So I do a major stress test on that. Same with rent increases. You kind of, as a landlord, you have control over the rent increases, but you shouldn't be complacent about it because you want to inch that up over time. Don't crush your tenant base because at some point people can pay. I mean, many people live paycheck to paycheck, especially, tenants in mobile home parks and, middle class or lower middle class, or they even like on Section 8 income, like Section 8 vouchers, and they're paying their rent with. They're kind of capped. So if you have to keep that in mind too. And then if you have parks where you say, oh yeah, cool, we had half of market rents, which is great, and some go in there and go straight to market in year one, you crush your tenant base. You have a lot of defaults. So we stress test. We don't go to market in less than 3 years. So if we have like $200 we have to catch up on, we do 75 year one, 75 year two, and then the last bump in year three. And then our stress test, what happens if I do this over 5 years? In case I realize, we do the 75-year bump in year one, and I already have a lot of people defaulting. What happens in year two if I do another 75? So a stress test, okay, maybe do 75 year one and maybe 25 year two or 35, whatever it is, a stress test that. And then I combine all of these things. That's what I mean with apocalyptic scenario. Does the deal still work? If it still does, great. If it doesn't, then I'm gonna look closer as, okay, what is actually too far? Because you can kill every deal on paper. You can also make a bad deal look good on paper as well. If you're just like dreaming about, I'm going to infill 50 homes in year one, you can make it look great, but it's not going to be realistic. So you have to be also realistic. What can actually go wrong and what is actually likely? Like all of these things happening at the same time is very, very unlikely because you have a control about a lot of things. But that's how on the surface level to stress test the deal on paper.
It's good. And like I said, we'll make another webinar with details on how do we stress test. I think it's a really good webinar to create. So, you said we look at many deals, right? And some of them don't even make it to the underwriting phase because we see something that we say no to immediately. Can we talk about some of those things that could immediately kill a deal no matter the returns?
Yes, small demographics, small town, wastewater treatment plants, lagoons, major flood zone issues, like the entire park is a flood zone, or the majority of it. We can work. We have 2 parks out of 25. They're like on the edge of a flood zone, and you have more insurance costs, but it's more like, it's a smaller risk. But it's something you want to keep in mind. And by the way, if something is not in the flood zone on the FEMA map, doesn't mean it's not in the flood zone. You still want to talk to people, because I've talked to people that said, oh yeah, this is on the flood zone. Every time I have a bad storm, this is a big pond over here. And then you cannot put homes here. You need to talk to people. So that can kill a deal very quickly. And we walk parks even before we get on the contract. And so like the next year we're going to get on the contract. We always spend 3 days in that area just to get to know the market, because it's a new market for us, but it's 280 lots and it's $5 in a new market. It's, more to come in the next webinar on that. Just a little teaser there, a little Easter egg. But we get to know the market that way. And then are there any red flags during that process? We underwrote it already. Numbers look good. We stress tested. Numbers look good. We even pitch it to the bank, and the bank says, "Hey, this is a great deal." And they see deals all day long, every day. And if the bank says, "I love this deal, I will lend on this," that's a good sign. And then now we're still going to go there and check out even coffee shops, talk to people. Hey, how you like this market? Do you hate it? Do you love it? What's good about here? Would you live here? What's the rents? How fast can you get something? There's a lot of available rentals. So we ask those questions and stay a couple of days there. We look at the parks at night, during the day. And there might be some other red flags that we might see and say, we're not even going to look at this deal any further because, there's a lot of truck activity and whatever. High crime is another one, which eliminates the deal if it's in a really, really bad area. And then also medium income, if it's way too low, we try to put a lot of new homes in. There can be a major headwind. There's a lot of different things that can kill it. But the main ones I always see that kills the deal, like Gate is like the infrastructure, like wastewater treatment, lagoons, high vacancy in small markets. Like those are the number one killer on what comes across our desk.
And it's good to know that, right? To have our boundaries on what we say no to right away. That way we don't kill time. Time is precious. Let's shift gears and talk about some lessons learned. What's a mistake that we made early on that changed our process?
Yeah, I think that one park we bought in Virginia in a small town, we still pay the preferred returns and everything, but man, it's a lot of work. And everything is slower in a smaller town. We were super conservative on the underwriting. We stress tested and it's still working, but it takes a lot of operational bandwidth to actually get to the point where you can pay the preferred return. Where other deals, we're meeting every 2 weeks internally and like, yep, we are 100% occupied, full collections, everything is great, and the meeting is done in 15 minutes. There's very polarizing deals that we have in our portfolio where the other ones, on the investor feel that they get their returns, but it's a lot of work in the background, where the other deals, the investors get also their full returns, and it's not a lot of work because it's very easily stabilized, it's in a good market, and there's a lot of demand for housing there, etc. So being in a market that has growth, or at least is stable and has a lot of people living there, it doesn't have to be like Los Angeles of population. It doesn't have to be like millions of people, but at least like 50,000 people, even 30,000, right? But that one deal we bought was in the town of 3,500 people, and that wasn't. I think the next biggest city is about an hour and a half away, and you feel that vendors is the issue. Just get into Lowe's or Home Depot, you have to drive an hour. That's a mistake that we did in the beginning, but I wouldn't say we fail. We either learn or win. So that made us so much stronger of what to say no to. That takes, bandwidth from our operations to take on more deals, because ultimately that's what's happening. It takes a lot of bandwidth to get the job done, whereas we could have probably put 2 or 3 stable deals in its place for the same amount of work, if that makes sense, and serve even triple the amount of investors, if that makes sense. So from an operational perspective. So yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson we learned the last 2 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like you said, right, we're still executing to the business plan. The investors are still getting their preferred returns, but it's a lot of work. So we learn from that, and that's something we look at when we get new deals in the pipeline. Is it a small town? How close is the next big city? And vendors is a big thing, right? How easy is it, to get electricians, plumbers? How easy is it to get in there?
If I might add too, we bought this one portfolio in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is that deal is crushing it, preferred return. We pay actually extra cash flow on top of the preferred return. We have extra cash flow on top of it we're paying out. And if you look at the individual town names in Spartanburg, there's like Woodruff, South Carolina, which has only 3,000 people, but it's in the county of 500,000 people and 2 major cities within 20 minutes. And that makes all the difference. And people want to live there because they want to get out of the city and they want to live there, etc. You actually have a draft coming down into the small towns that way. And that one has an unfair advantage. That's why we invested there. They built a brand new BMW plant, which I believe goes online this year or next year in 2027. So I know that coming in, there's a lot of land getting gobbled up. They're building hotels there and stuff for all the travel. There's international people coming in for work, etc. So small town doesn't necessarily immediately mean no. There has to be the right circumstances so it becomes a yes, if that makes sense. So it's a maybe. It's a very likely no, but there's a chance if everything around it is working, to its advantage.
As an operator, Matthias, if I could give you just 3 things to look at before buying a park, what would they be?
Oh, that's a good question. Financials, that's how we make money, and that's how we pay the investor the capital back. If there would be one only, that would be the one. Secondly, it would be just looking at like vacancy and occupancy. I'll be looking there, and then the urban demographics, like the market again. If you have those three, you could neglect the other, and probably even if there's something, infrastructure is the other one really. Infrastructure, let's say financials, infrastructure, and then the demographics. Those are the main ones because that can kill you. Everything else you can make up in operations. Even with the financials, if they're bad, you might see, okay, there's a very bad operator at the steering wheel, you can turn it around. But you want to see what you're up against. If you actually lose cash from the beginning, you want to raise more capital for reserves to actually have time to build it up again and then have it performing. So yeah, those three things I think is the most important for me to, if I had only three to choose from.
I agree. And I'll give you more. Trust me, I'll give you more than three, but you know.
That's helpful. You're a good friend.
I think you're going to love this because you underwrite a lot of deals, right? So question for you is, what separates a professional underwriting from spreadsheet optimism? What would you say?
Realism, to understand what's actually possible. But anybody can put numbers in a spreadsheet, in a model, in a template that's well organized. Everybody can do it. It makes you an underwriter. You can also put a fishing hook and a bait in the ocean and say, I'm a fisherman. You are, but how much fish are you catching? Are you there at the right time? You put in the right inputs in, you have the right bait, etc. What fish are you actually trying to catch? Same with the underwriting. You put all the numbers in, then what? Where can you bring the deal? That's where it gets sophisticated. That's where you have to understand, what can I do in this market? What is possible? I have 50 vacant lots. Don't assume you're going to fill them in year one. No way you're going to fill them in year one. The biggest operator I'm talking to, they have 4, 5, 10,000 mobile home lots. They don't make more than 8 to 10 a year infill. Like that means actually ordering them, placing them, leasing them, or selling them. And that actually, the last part is the hard part. Buying them is like swiping a credit card. You're just buying a home and they set it in place for you. Or if you do your own setup, that's some extra work, but you can actually have other solutions out there where the manufacturer manages the setup for you. But that makes a big difference to know where you can bring the business plan, like massaging that pro forma in a realistic way, because you can also go on the pro forma and lie to yourself and say, oh yeah, we're gonna do this rent increase at $150 in year one, we infill 20 homes, you're gonna fix all the bad homes up, you only need $2,000 a home. Spreadsheet looks great, everything is green, you have a webinar, go to your investors, they all think, oh yeah, I get like 3x equity multiple, you look great until you close the deal and then you can execute. That makes the difference.
It's crazy how a good deal gets better with scrutiny, right? And bad ones get worse. You know, exactly. When you have a good deal, we intentionally try to kill it. And if it's still surviving, it shows that it's a good deal, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. If you really can't kill it, like that must be a really good deal then. I'm really trying hard to like, how can I hate this thing? How can I really kill this thing? And it's like, okay, it's still alive. I think it's a really good deal then. It's not hinging on one thing. We don't like that either. It's like, it's hinging on like, we have to infill this many a year. I don't like that. I always love to like, okay, this is not working. If I remove this one lever, does it still work and get the returns? Will it be less returns? Yes. But let's say we start out of like a 2.5x equity multiple and then remove the infill lever and I still get the 2.1. It's still a great return. You still double your money in 5 years and not 2.5. Yeah, sorry, that was our goal, but like worst case kicked in, it's still a 2x equity multiple. I mean, it's still like a 20% IRR. It's amazing returns, you know, and that's what I'm looking for. I also like I've seen other people too, and there's a lot of people like in masterminds I'm seeing, and they're underwriting deals, and you know, they're pitching to investors. They want to get the same game as we are, and what I see what they're doing wrong is they're promising like the moon from the sky, you know, like they have 3x equity multiple, they have 33% IRR. Because they're underwriting like to the best case scenario, and like that best case scenario is also very dreamy. So I'm like, you put yourself in a really, really tough position, man. You promise yourself and your investors way too much. If you can execute, great, but you're gonna be under gun the entire time from day one to execute on this. And we like to be at the pace where we can say we can be comfortably and conservatively execute and pay the returns reliably. That's what I'm going for on our underwriting. And then I want to actually be almost bored. They're like, oh, we have to put another home in. Like, I don't want to be stressed on day one. Like, we have to get to the numbers. The rent has to be 40,000 by March, you know, per month. We have 25 right now. And like, we're under stress immediately, you know, because we have negative cash flow out of the gate or whatever it is. I don't want those deals. It doesn't help. They're harder to find, but that's why you have to look at 200 deals then, you know. You don't just to make one offer a week or one offer a month and hope you find those deals that come magically to you. You have to get out there and, you know, start fishing to catch that fish.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, it comes down to what you said. I want to be able to sleep at night. You know, sleeping at night feels good, right? Exactly. And boring, I'm okay with boring. I'm okay with infilling 5 homes, you know, and make the deal work. I'm okay with that.
Even better, what I like is like we do the last Albany deal. We have in the underwriting, we're going to do 2 homes a year. We're actually going to do 4 to 5. We actually double it because we can.
Under promise, over deliver. I'm good with that.
Exactly right.
I don't know. When I talk to investors, I always tell them, hey, our best asset is the deal that we never bought. Right? Because I can't imagine buying the wrong deal because, you felt emotionally attached to the deal and now you're struggling to meet the expectations and what you promised your investors, right? Yeah. So the best deal is the one you never bought.
Totally agree.
Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to share?
I'm excited for the next deal that's coming up. You guys will see in our next webinar we talk about will be by far our biggest acquisition ever. So that's one way to kick off 2026. So it's almost twice as big a deal yet. So it's going to be big. It's going to be a new market that we weren't always going to go into, but the deals never made sense for the reasons I just mentioned. We killed some actually under contract in that state. I'm looking forward to getting that one taken apart because stress testing it survived. I tried to kill it, but it didn't die yet. So that's a good one. I'm looking forward to it. The bank is excited about it too. They can't wait to lend on it. I just got another email from them. They want to see pictures so they can bring it to their loan team to get kind of a commitment letter already before we go on a contract. That's huge. There's another little thing that we're doing. We already shopping before we go on the contract. And the contract is actually in our inbox. We just got the final contract to sign today. So the material will come out in the next week from us to talk about it more, and really excited to offer that to our investors.
Man, what a way to close out a webinar, Matthias. Yes, we're super excited. We have a deal in the pipeline. It's just waiting for a review and a sign of the contract. Once that happens, we're going to be all over the place reaching out to our investors. So for this one, we want to thank you for taking the time to being with us and learning more about what we do, how we operate, how we say no to deals. If you want to know more about what we do or even the deals we have in the pipeline, join our investor list or book a call with our team. Contact info is going to be at the bottom. We rather educate you for a year than put you in the wrong deal for 5. And that is why we are readily available to you guys whenever you reach out for questions. So with that said, thanks again for joining. Have a great week. We'll talk to you on the next one.